Trust and believe, dance and be free. Jump in, jump in. Da, 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 da. There is peace, there is joy, there are pleasures evermore at the river. At the river. You'll find love, you'll find grace when we come to see His face. At the river. Trust and believe, dance and be free. Jump in, jump in. Trust and believe, dance and be free. Jump in, jump in. Bring your worries, bring your cares. You can leave your burdens there at the river. Get what you need. Trade your sorrows and your pain. There is freedom in His name at the river. Trust and believe, dance and be free. Jump in, jump in. Trust and believe, dance and be free. You can be free. Jump in. The water's troubled. All you gotta do is step in, jump in, dive in. It's safe. The river, just jump in. You gotta jump in. The river, just jump in. Whatever you need, just jump in. The river, just jump in. You need peace. River, just jump in. The river, just jump in. If you need to hold this, if you just jump in. Jump in. The river, just jump in. If you need joy, jump in. If you need peace, if you need love, jump in. Jump in.
Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, and you have entered into the deep dive. I am Pastor Justin, and this is Pastor Denisha, and we are so glad that you have taken some time to hang out with us tonight. If you have been along the ride with us, you know we have traveled a long way to get to this month, which is the 9th month, which has come extremely fast because it skipped through my birthday month real quick, and I'm mad. But I'm excited about today. We ask you to like, we ask you to share, to subscribe, tag someone that actually that needs some word today. They might need encouragement. They might need something to get them through today. So tag them, text them, get your devices out, whatever it is that you take notes on, whether it's a tablet or a pen or pencil, however it is you do it, get out your stuff so you can get some notes going, and so this way you can get into this water with us. Now, we talked about this last week a little bit, and we talked about the journey that we've had. So also, if you've been joining us on the wave, there has been a journey. We talked about the Nextra. We talked about it is what it ain't. And even last week talking about we're not in Kansas anymore. So we have been gradually coming through even in the wave. We jumped on the wave, hit the wave, and we're on shore now. So it is a new month.
We're not gonna be on shore, are we?
Not quite all the way on shore, but we
just gonna keep riding the waves.
we come on shore to dock to get some notes, and then we get back in the water.
Oh.
That's all. Sometimes you gotta dock, you gotta take them on to dock. But we are both excited about this new month because last month we talked about all things being new, and I don't know if you've noticed, but even the font is new. Look at that. Look at that. All things new. Even the font is new.
Well, I just want to say this. We last week sat in different places.
Yes.
And we sat in this different place, the same different place today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about how easy it is to go back to old habits,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so even as we're going into a new month, right? So it's literally a new month.
Right.
But if all things were made new last month, fight the urge to go back and do some of those same things again.
Yeah.
Right? Because we talked before about it only as a new beginning if you do something new.
Yeah.
So, the natural tendencies, the muscle memory, the brain highways, all of our just habits, things that are ingrained in us. It might be an uphill battle to stay doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep doing something different until that becomes what's familiar and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's interesting to try and do something new. It's easy before you think about it. You're doing that old habit again, but being intentional to actually do something new and to keep doing the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I easily could have sat over there like usual. Right,
Yeah.
but I said we started something new, so let's just keep it going. So as we go into this new month, I just want to encourage you again. Whatever you started, keep going. Now the Bible tells us in Philippians 1:6 that God, who started the work, will complete it. We have to allow Him to complete what He started. The Bible also tells us that He's the author and the finisher of our faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we keep letting Him finish what He's starting in us. So, as we get into this next month, we're going to stay on the wave. We're going to stay where God is taking us. We're going to let God finish it, right? So, just resist those urges to go back into those old patterns, habits, behaviors. If you started something new, keep going. So, let's go into this conversation. Get your Bibles. Let's go to John 4. We're going to read the 4th chapter of John. We're going to read it in the easy to read version. So we're going to go John, the 4th chapter. We're going to read for context so we understand the story and what's happening here. We're going to read the first 15 verses. So we're going to read for a minute, but hang with us. So John, the 14th chapter. No, John, the 4th chapter. Verses 1 through 15. So verse 1, it says, Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard the report that he was making and baptizing more followers than John. But really, Jesus himself did not baptize anyone. His followers baptized people for him. We got to pause right there. It's crazy how people will tell the story, and when they tell the story, the details aren't right.
Right.
So they run in to tell a whole bunch of stuff about what Jesus is doing, and they ain't even got the facts straight. So don't be surprised if people decide to share a narrative about you that the facts aren't straight. That doesn't mean anything. Keep going. So anyway, verse 3, it says, So he left Judea and went back to Galilee. On the way to Galilee, verse 4, he had to go through the country of Samaria. Now, I know we're reading this in the easy-to-read version today, but in the King James Version, I love the way it says. It says, he must needs go. He must needs go through Samaria. He must needs go. He had to go, right? And that just has a lot of implications. We're going to get through that. We're going to get into that throughout this month. So, it says he had to go through the country of Samaria. In verse 5, it says, In Samaria, Jesus came to a town called Sychar, which is near the field that Jacob gave his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. Jesus was tired from his long trip, so he sat down beside the well. It was about noon. Verse 7. A Samaritan woman came to the well to get some water, and Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." Verse 8. This happened while his followers were in town buying some food. Verse 9. The woman answered, "I am surprised that you ask me for a drink. You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman." Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans. Verse 10. Jesus answered, "You don't know what God can give you." Don't stop. "And you don't know who I am, the one who asked you for a drink. If you knew, you would have asked me, and I would have given you living water." Verse 11. The woman says, "Sir, where will you get that living water?" And excuse the drama. I'm just trying to make the scripture come alive. "Sir, where will you get that living water? The well is very deep, and you have nothing to get water with." She thinks she's getting Jesus together, right? And Jesus says in verse 2, she says, "Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob? He is the one who gave us this well. He drank from it himself, and his sons and all his animals drank from it too." Verse 13. Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But anyone who drinks the water I give will never be thirsty again. The water I give people will be like a spring flowing inside them. It will bring them eternal life." Sis, that sounds good to me. And verse 15 says, the woman said to Jesus, "Sir, give me this water. Then I will never be thirsty again, and won't have to come back here to get more water." We're starting our conversation this month called I Need a Drink. Somebody put that in the chat. I need a drink.
Yeah.
I need a drink. Ooh. Let's go. So let's go back to the top, right? Jesus is, well, actually, no, let's not do that. Let's talk about like this phrase, "I need a drink."
Mm-hmm.
When do we often say that, right? When does that often happen?
There's usually two times.
Go ahead.
Usually, two times that are commonly known.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, when you're literally thirsty,
Mm-hmm.
because you haven't been hydrated correctly, or when you're going through something and you need a little adult beverage to coax you on your way. Oftentimes, those are the most common times that you hear that.
So being thirsty. Let's talk about that for a minute, right? Literally, and we're going to weave in and out of the natural and the spiritual. So literally, in the natural, when it's hot, right? When it's really hot, and even though summer is coming to an end, it's not officially over. In some places, it's still in the 90s and 80s, and it's nothing like a cool drink when you really, really hot. Right? Nothing like a nice milkshake or a slushie or big old cup of ice water or some lemonade. Why you laughing?
Because I'm getting all it. The more you're saying it, the more I'm thinking about. We talk about weaving in and out of natural and spiritual. Because I'm thinking about when things get hot. For real, like in the spirit, you need the coolness or the comfort of the word. So I think that's kind of why I'm like, this is a good weave.
So in the natural, when it's hot, you need to drink. You need something to drink. Sometimes when you've had things that are too salty.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you haven't, for me, I know like I can tell like if I haven't had enough water, so I just get thirsty. Like I just need to keep drinking. I was also thinking about like when you're eating food
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the worst things when you go to a restaurant, for example, and you ask for a refill.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I do is I time my refills. I know, like, this is about 2 or 3 sips in this cup, especially because they got all this ice in it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a couple bites and I drink this, and then a couple more bites later, I'm going to drink this, and then I'm going to be
Thirsty.
out of
You're gonna be
something
thirsty
to drink.
Yeah.
So I try to tell them when they come to the table, hey, go ahead and just bring me another refill before you come. I don't want to worry your patience. Just go ahead and bring me something.
Right.
And when they don't, and I've maxed out my 2-sip minimum, and I'm eating and I need a drink to wash that down,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a terrible feeling.
It is.
You talk about mad,
Mhm.
mad, right? So now I've been waiting, and it get to a point sometimes you just stop eating.
Yeah.
And somebody be like, what's wrong? Your food not good? Yes, I just need something to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, so eating, part of the culinary experience, you need something to drink.
Because it cleans your palate too.
And it helps to,
Yeah.
you know, like, because the more sometimes you eat, you get thirsty. And there's another terrible feeling is when you got like this much to drink. And it doesn't quite hit that quench, like it doesn't quench that thirst. And you trying to, and it's like, I needed about 3 more ounces to just take this all the way over. Because, you know, you can drink and you feel that. When we were kids, my dad used to always teach us and little kids to do this. Like when we drink something, he'd say, and so we drink like, yeah, I don't know why he would teach us to say, after we have that drink. And you know, when you got the right amount of drink and you drink that liquid, the juice, the pop, the water, whatever, or soda, depending on what part of the country you live in, you drink it, and that when it really hit the spot, you be like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and depending on what you drinking, if it hits, you be like, you know, that's a feeling, that satisfaction,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
when we're eating food and we drink something, we can be satisfied. When we've been exercising,
Mm-hmm.
that's another time, right? Some
Yeah.
kind of strenuous activity, like you just need
Mhm.
a drink. And even when people run marathons and stuff like
Oh,
that, there are
yeah.
people on the sides of the course, the mapped out path,
Mhm.
that are just passing out water. Because you know, as much as you are exerting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you need something to drink,
Yeah.
right? So this thirst that we all have as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I know when I've been drinking like too much soda, too much Coke, I'm like, I just need some water. Like, this is good, but what I really want is
Mhm.
water. And I find that I want water the most when we don't have any. Right? So we buy a lot of bottled water. And when it's like, okay, it's 10 o'clock, we don't have any water. It might be all kind of juice in there, all kind of soda, but I want the water at that moment. And then I'm thinking about, I can't go all day tomorrow with no water. Like, and I want the water the most when I don't have it. And I often exclaim, I need a drink.
Mhm.
Now, to the other side that you were talking about, when we've had a long day or a situation that has come up that probably has us challenged in our emotions, one of the things we either jokingly say or truthfully say,
Mm-hmm.
I need a drink. And now that it's not a drink at that moment.
Drink.
You don't need a drink.
Right.
You need a drink.
Drink. There's an A in there. A capital A.
I need a drink. They call it happy hour for a reason. Happy hour is strategically timed.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, we go to happy hour, or happy hour exists after work.
Yep. Like directly.
When you know, that 3 to 7 hour, that 5 to 7 hour, because whatever the challenges of the work day were, they are banking on the fact that you gonna need a drink.
Yeah.
Anybody ever needed a drink? Put some hearts in there. Put some drinks emojis in there. If you know you needed a drink, right? Those stressors. Or let's say someone, and this, I saw a video today of a grandma's funeral. It said drunk Uncle Red at grandma's funeral.
Mm.
And he was drunk, y'all. Knocked over the flowers at one point, and then he caught himself trying to sing. And I was just thinking about the tendency to get drunk when we're morning,
Mm-hmm.
right? So sometimes it's not just that work was a hard day, but life stressors and situations.
Mm-hmm.
I need a drink,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wanting to deal with our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get all into this month.
Yeah.
I remember not a drink, but I was coming home from work one day. I was at home from work one day, and it had been a very stressful day. And I remembered I had a little pint of Grater's ice cream in the refrigerator. And I was upstairs, and I started to come downstairs, and the Holy Spirit said, that ain't what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because a lot of times we want to fulfill our emotional, physical responses with stuff.
Right.
Right? It means you again exclaim, I need a drink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got to go deal with these people. I need a drink. Here go one. I got to get on this airplane.
Yeah.
Flight attendant, I need a drink. And I ain't gonna lie, the last plane I was on, we was a 3-seater plane, so the person in the middle seat, I don't know, she ain't never been on a plane before. She was super anxious, but she was shaking. I was about to be like, get her a drink. Let her have mine. Give her something, because she need to be still. It's 5 a.m, sis. You know this plane was gonna get up and go in the air, and she just shaking and bouncing her leg. You are in the middle seat.
Shaking everybody.
You can't be in the middle seat right now doing all this. Get her a drink. Right? So a lot of times we exclaim this or have this, whether we're having natural needs or emotional needs.
Overwhelmed.
Right? These stressors, and this is our response to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we do it. This is how we celebrate people sometimes.
Right. Right.
I remember, I don't know how old I was, but it was my birthday. And my sister and I were in a restaurant, just having dinner, and I had a crown on because that's what I used to do all the time. I used to wear a crown on my birthday. And a man was walking to the bathroom, and he said, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, why do you have on the crown? I said, it's my birthday. He was a little tipsy. And he leaned in and hugged me and kissed me on my cheek. I ain't never met this man in my life. And next thing I know, the waiter came over with a drink. I was like, what is this? And the waiter said, the man over there, he sent it to you for your birthday. People like, oh, it's your birthday? We about to turn up. Get her a drink. You know, be at a restaurant and you got your little birthday badge on or something, and somebody else see it's your birthday. It's your 21st birthday too. Shots on me, right? We help people celebrate like this.
Mm-hmm.
Get them a drink. I'm going to take you out for drinks.
Yeah.
It's a socialization call.
Mm-hmm.
Let's meet up.
Yeah.
For drinks. Ooh, we're going to have a good time with this. All these metaphors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? The socialization connected to it.
Right.
And sometimes let's go to get out for coffee.
Right.
Let's meet up for coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Drink.
These drinks.
Right. These drinks.
Let's have a beverage of choice.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that I need a drink, let's see what it actually means in the spirit of it all. So let's talk about thirst for a second, right? Back in the day, Sprite had a slogan.
Yeah.
It was one of first things first.
Mm-hmm.
Obey your thirst.
Yeah.
Now, I like that a lot. First things first.
Mm-hmm.
Obey your thirst. Now, the question I might ask is, what are you thirsty for?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. What are you thirsty for?
Somebody put that in the chat. What are you thirsty for?
Yeah.
Growing up, I was allergic to milk. I was allergic to a lot of things growing up. But I was allergic to milk, and so I had to drink powdered milk. One of the nastiest things that you can probably have to experience. And so because I didn't want to drink milk, I often opted for water. So people drink milk with their cookies, or they dunk their cookie in the milk. And my sisters would tell me how gross it was. I would dunk my cookie in the water. Now that is kind of gross. But the point is, I became accustomed to drinking water with anything sweet because I didn't want to drink milk and I didn't like milk. And to this day, I can drink regular milk. I don't rarely do I drink milk. And if I have something sweet,
you need water.
I need water. If I've got a cookie, if I've got a piece of cake, I've got some candy bar, I need some water because I have created a taste for water.
Creating a taste. So that's good.
Right? So what are you thirsty for? I'm thirsty for water because that is what I have programmed myself to desire. So when programmed myself to desire. Now initially when I first started out drinking the water with the sweets, it wasn't what I enjoyed. But now you can't give me a cup of milk. If I'm going to get some kind of slushy or a smoothie, one of the things I'm checking, like, is this milk based or juice based? Because if it's milk based, I don't want it. Because of what I have learned, and they call it an acquired taste. Sometimes you taste stuff and people don't like it, but it's an acquired taste. Over time, you develop a taste for it. Right? So some of the things we love and we're thirsty for, where did that desire come from? What life experiences created that thirst in you?
Yeah, that's good.
So the definition of thirst is?
Thirst, a feeling of needing or wanting to drink something. See? Like there, she was thirsty. She needed.
I wasn't really thirsty. My throat was dry. But
that was but watch this. There was a reason. You needed to. Yeah.
So a feeling of needing to drink something. A feeling of wanting to drink something. Now, here's another concept of thirsty that we haven't really brought up yet, right? When somebody is thirsty. What would we be saying?
That's your thirsty. Like, when they're seeking at see, and that's really what the thirst really comes to, is that seeking after something, that going after something that you currently don't have. That's where that thirst, that's where, to me, even in the natural and in the spiritual, it has the exact same meaning. That you're going after something that you obviously need or want, but you're pursuing it. Because until you get it, and sometimes that thirstiness can be can look like it's something overboard. You know, it can be a bit much. When you hear people say, like, man, they're a bit much. Like, what are you thirsty for?
And so this thirstiness, and it's funny because we like, and this is a judgmental statement. I ain't gonna lie. You look at somebody like, man, they thirsty, right? They thirsty. And what we're acknowledging is their behaviors or their actions show what they're craving or what they're desiring, right? And now let's go higher. On social media, for example, we call a certain picture or a type of picture a thirst trap, right? So this type of picture is going to trap all of the folks who are thirsty. Right? It's going to entice them. And we've all seen it. We've seen the pictures, whether you call it this or not. But we've all seen those pictures like, oh, that's a thirst trap.
Yeah, when you scroll.
You're trying to make sure that you get. You stop.
When you stop, that's a thirst trap. When you scroll.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Talking about when you scroll.
Don't expose yourself, Pastor.
No, I'm giving the example. When that's how you know it's something that, because it catches you, and not for comedic value. It catches you like, oh, that's when you know that's that I'm gonna sink you. I'm gonna get you. Like, come here.
And now here's the thing, though. I will say, if you're not thirsty, it don't get you.
Right.
That's the part that's a trap. Right. Because I see them all day long, but because it's not something that entices me, it doesn't trap me. But I can tell, like, oh yeah, that was a thirst trap they was trying to put up. It didn't trap me, but it was a thirst trap.
But and all the more, we were talking about this. Actually, just last week we were talking about this. About we gotta stop sending certain foods and stuff.
Oh yeah,
you know, those are thirst traps for me.
Yes, sir.
Looking at them cinnamon rolls, and looking at those funnel cake.
That's a thirst trap.
That'll get me to stop in my tracks. So because that's something that I have a craving for. That's certain. So that's where we have to watch. And this is probably going to be really good. We have to be careful about what we're craving because that little thing, and it may be something small. It may be something you haven't had in a long time, and even those you got to be careful about too. Because if it's something you ain't had in a long time, doesn't mean the desire isn't there. Doesn't mean the craving isn't there. But you'll know when it comes because it'll stop you in your tracks, and you'll start going after it before you know it.
So when Sprite said first things first, obey your thirst, depending on what we're thirsty for, that is wonderful advice.
Yeah.
And depending on what we thirsty for, that is detrimental advice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when you get thirsty, then you start to proclaim, I need a drink. And when you need a drink, when you need it, then you go into a course of action to get that drink. Right? And when depending on what you're thirsty for, what you start doing to get that thirst quenched could be life-giving.
Yeah.
Or it can be life-defeating.
Yeah.
I need a drink. What you trying to drink? You know, you go into a place, they go, what you drinking?
Right.
Because we going to keep giving you more of what you drinking. Or at a restaurant or some other places where beverages are sold. They will ask, what are you drinking? What would you like to drink? And depending on what you want. Now, water, for example, they're going to keep bringing you all the water you want. A Coke, nowadays, might be like $2.89.
No.
Strawberry lemonade, $5.99. Now, depending on how thirsty you are and what you're drinking, that getting 6 cups of water, 6 cups of strawberry lemonade, you know, that happened to us one day. I'm looking like, how is the bill $92?
Right.
Oh, well, the refills weren't free.
Right.
I'm going to need you to clarify.
And that's good, though. Well, that you said that, I'm going to need you to clarify that because sometimes those cravings that we thirst for, we don't realize what's behind it. We don't realize how much it's actually going to take from us than it's giving. Yeah, the cost. And you sometimes you find out, not that you may not have it, but it wasn't worth
that part.
The cost.
That part.
You have it, but it wasn't worth the cost.
Like lemonade was good, but it wasn't worth $22 for it.
Right.
Now that free water, we gonna preach that a little later this week, this month. The free water.
Yeah.
And we even know the benefits of, say, water versus lemonade. Because some of the things we're craving in this I need a drink have no nutritional value.
Yeah.
It's filling you up, but it's not helping you.
Empty calories, basically. Empty
calories, but no nutritional value.
No substance.
So, the obey your thirst. We gotta check what we thirsty for. We gotta check what created that thirst.
Yeah.
Right? And then what are we doing to go after that thirst? Now, we talked before about how, like, exhausting ourselves, working out makes us thirsty. Right? Sometimes we doing a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of work that's creating a thirst. And the question I always ask people, like, is that the work you're supposed to be doing? Right? Remember we talked in June and Into the Deep where Jesus told the fishermen, come and follow me. I'm going to make you fishers of men. He changed their work.
Changed their occupation.
Right? Some of us are working and toiling. And the Bible's clear about, in Psalms and Proverbs, about what happens when we're toiling. You know, vain toiling in Ecclesiastes, right? Just working, all this stuff and having nothing to show for it.
Right.
But this exhaustion can make you thirsty. Now, I love that because even when we've exhausted ourselves, there's living water available to us that fills us back up. So obey your thirst. First things first. Obey your thirst. Let's go back to the top of John 4. We're just going to sit in this for just a few more minutes. We're laying the foundation for today. There's 5 Thursdays in September. Just FYI, if you didn't look at the calendar.
Was it July or was it June?
June, I think.
June, they had like 16
Yeah.
Thursdays.
So there's 5 Thursdays. So we just setting the foundation today.
Right.
So Jesus is in Galilee. Go back up. It said now the Pharisees is salty.
Yeah.
Saltiness makes you thirsty, but we'll get to that in another week. So the Pharisees, it said Jesus learned that the Pharisees heard about what was happening. So Jesus and his followers are baptizing people.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is having wild success. In fact, John, the Bible says there was none like him. Right? John was having a lot of success too.
Right.
Jesus and the disciples are baptizing more people than John was.
Mm-hmm.
Now again, it clears up. Jesus really wasn't the one out there baptizing, but his followers were. And so the Pharisees is always checking for Jesus. They always have some rah-rah for Jesus. They always have something to say. So Jesus being a peaceful man, I love how the Bible talks about how he would slide in and out of places.
Mm-hmm.
They would try to, one time they tried to throw him over a cliff and he slipped away and they couldn't get him. They look around like, where'd he go? Another time he did his ninja move on them was they tried to seize him and make him king.
Mm-hmm.
And he slipped out of their grasp
Smooth
too.
operator.
Some of us want to get away when the criticism is coming.
Mm-hmm.
But when the promotion and claim is coming, oh, let's ride.
Right.
But Jesus also knew that wasn't his purpose. So he knew how to slide out on them in that moment too. Some of you, that's a word right there.
Yeah.
Jesus slipped out because he knew it wasn't his purpose and his time.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, all right, I'm going to leave Judea and I'm going to go back to Galilee.
Mm-hmm.
But on the way,
On the way.
he had to go through the country of Samaria. Again, he must needs go. He had to go this route.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you need to know your route is mapped out.
Yeah.
You have to go this way.
Have to go.
If there was another way, God would have guided you that other way. Sometimes we want to know, why did I have to go through this? And I tell God this all the time. I'm like, oh, we really could have did this another way.
Mm-hmm.
I could have learned this lesson another way.
Right.
And if I really could have, God would have taught me it another way.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are I went that other way and didn't learn, which is why he brought me this way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even in the in Deuteronomy or Exodus, he says, I didn't take you the way of the Philistines because you would have saw war and turned back. So God takes us a certain way because he knows what we can handle. And if he took Jesus a certain way, why do you think he's not going to take you a certain way? Yeah. So it said, I must needs go through, or he had to go through the country of Samaria. We're going to talk more about Samaria next week. In Samaria, Jesus came to a town called Sychar, which is near the field that Jacob gave his son. So I'm looking at verse 5. So Jesus gets to this town that Jacob used to live in, his ancestors, sits down beside the well that was Jacob's well, and he's tired.
Right.
He's tired from a long trip.
Mm-hmm.
And he sits down. It's around noon. And even if we understand noon, that's often what we call high noon, where the sun is directly above us, going back to heat. Right? The heat and needing some water. And you've been walking and traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So he's tired. He sits down. Now at the same time he's sitting down, here comes a Samaritan woman.
Mm-hmm.
She came to get some water. So they are both at this well needing the same thing.
Right.
But for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jesus says, can you give me something to drink?
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine in 2022, most of us have never seen a well. Because when we thirsty, we just go in the refrigerator and get some water. Or at best, we go to the faucet and run some water. We get a bottle of water. Like this idea of not just being able to get water when you're thirsty is foreign to many of us.
Right.
Right? why they're having this conversation, the significance of this water, we have to call into conversation that, again, having access to water is what we're usually used to.
Yeah.
So it's a whole system, it's a whole process of how you got to get the water, right? And so the woman comes to get some water, and Jesus says, "Can you give me some water?" Now, I can feel her. I feel sis. I feel a little bit, because it's bad enough I got to be out here toiling over this water. And you want me to do the hard work for you too? So I'm sure her attitude already kind of... And I'm going to take some leeway here. It's the Middle East. Let's call her a woman of color. You know that black girl magic rose up. Now, it says that his disciples were already getting food. We're going to talk about why that's important in a couple of lessons. His disciples were getting food. So he's thirsty. They're stopping for lunch. They're taking, the disciples go to get some food. Here comes this woman. And he says, "Can you please give me something to drink?" The woman answers back like, "I'm surprised you even talking to me." Again, something that most of us probably don't even conceptualize in 2022, that there was still this distinct difference between who could talk to who. What groups of people talk to what groups of people. A man talking to a woman. Right? A Jew or a certain religious group, demographic group, race group, talking to somebody else of a different demographic group, race group, right? Most of us, again, can't even wrap our minds around that. And so what kind of looked like a little attitude probably also has some legitimate concern, like,
and confusion.
"I'm surprised you're even talking to me." And she says why she's surprised. She said, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. Not only am I a Samaritan, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
So I'm both." Now, for Jews, the Samaritans, they called them dogs without a God. Those were some of the equivalent of some of the racial epithets that we use today. To be a Samaritan, to be a woman, has some of the lowest class standing in the same way we see other groups treated today in our culture. And so it says, Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans. And here go the craziest part, y'all. They cousins.
That part.
Y'all know y'all got some family members that you don't talk to. You know y'all got some family members that you don't want to claim, right? You don't, if they on the news, you act like you don't know them. If you out with your work colleagues or you out with it, you act like you don't know who they are.
They can call your name.
You know, at the funeral or the family reunion, everybody hope that one part of the family don't show up. That was the relationship between the Jews and the Samaritans, except for they were very vocal and very verbal about the fact that they did not have, and in another translation it says, have no dealings with each other. The Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans. You know, they were a little uppity there, the special ones, the chosen ones. They have nothing to do with Samaritans. So a woman is being approached by a Jewish man. A Samaritan being approached by a Jewish man. I can understand her confusion and bewilderment. Like, what? Ain't you asking me to do some work? And I love it. She says, "I'm surprised you asked me for a drink." And Jesus said, "You don't know what God can give you." We can pause right there. I want to say to anybody listening or watching, you don't know what God can give you. Yep, you're a woman. Yep, you're a Samaritan. Yep, you out here. And you don't know what God set up for you. Yes, it's been a hard year. Yes, we got the monkeypox. Yes, we still dealing with COVID. But you don't know what God can give you. They told you no. You didn't get the job. They let you go. They downsized. But you don't know
Right.
what God can give you.
Yeah.
Yes, they broke up with you. Yes, they broke your heart. Yes, they told you they would never lie or cheat on you, and they did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what God can give you.
Right.
Yes, you dropped out of high school. Yes, you didn't get your degree. Yes, you are underqualified. You don't know
Yeah.
what God can give you.
Mm-hmm.
That's our word. You don't know what God can give you. In May, we talked about manifestation, and we said, I really believe
Mm-hmm.
that I will see the goodness of the Lord
Yes.
while I'm living. You
Mhm.
don't know what God can give you.
Yes.
When we've talked, it's going to be amazing.
Right.
You don't know what God can give you. And here is the one sitting there telling her, you don't know what God can give you. I must needs go through Samaria. I came here for you.
Right. Just for you.
For you. You at this well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what God can give you. Don't you despise what God is setting up for you.
Mm-hmm.
When stuff doesn't seem to be making sense, you don't know
Right.
what God can give you.
Mm-hmm.
Before we question it, before we have an attitude and a temper tantrum and go get a drink,
Right.
you don't know what
Mhm.
God can give you.
Mm.
You don't know what God can give
Yeah.
you. And Jesus goes on to say, and you don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You give me all this energy, you
Right.
don't even know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
All this, you don't know who I am. And then since he's saying, I ain't like them, we're going to get into her story a little later. If you want to read on in preparation and ahead of next time, he says, you don't know who I am. You don't even know the one who's asking you
Mm-hmm.
for a drink. Pause. You know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
The television show,
Yeah,
right? Anybody
yeah.
ever watched Undercover Boss? If you seen that, put that in the chat. Put some hearts, put some thumbs up emojis in the
Mhm.
chat. Undercover Boss, the CEO of the company,
Yep.
comes in. So CEO of Popeye, CEO of
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, probably not Chick-fil-A, but this because
Some-
everybody knows who
everybody-
Kathy Truitt is. You know, CEO of Target
Yeah.
disguises himself or herself
Mm-hmm.
as just a regular worker.
Right.
And they go and they dwell among or they interact among
Mm-hmm.
the workers. And it's always amazing because they might go to 3 or 4 different locations and they see from the vantage point of 3 or 4 different programs. You know, maybe you're a line worker, maybe you are in the administrative office doing data, maybe you're in the freezer. I remember the one with the Dippin' Dots.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, it's cold in here.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the show, he sits down
Mm-hmm.
and he asks him, he says, do you know who I am? And they kind of look at him like, you look familiar. You know, he's like, I'm Justin Bonner. And he's like, have you met me before? And they're like, you kind of look like Tyrone.
Right.
And then he tells them, yes, that was me. You know, when I came into the restaurant undercover, that was me.
Mm-hmm.
And based on their interactions, he has
Yeah.
some wonderful things to tell them generally.
Right. Yeah.
He says, you know, you talked to me about what was happening. And so as a result, we're going to do all new cameras. Or
Mhm.
as a result, everybody's getting new computers. Or
Right.
as a result, the whole phone system is going to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, all right, good, that's great, because we need it. And then they'll say, so you told me about those medical bills.
Right.
I have a check for $20,000 to pay off your mom's medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
Or you told me you wanted to go back to school. We're going to give you a scholarship for 4 years so you can go be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You told me you never had a vacation, so we're sending you and your family to Disney World for a week.
Right.
You don't know what God can give you. And Jesus says, and you don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. Jesus is at the well in the little undercover boss situation. He says, you don't know who's the one asking you for a drink. Because if you knew, you would ask me, and I would give something to you.
Yeah.
He says, if you knew, this is verse 10, if you knew who I was, you'd ask me, and I'd give you something to drink. Now, I got to give this woman a little bit of grace because I don't know what her patterns in history was totally, but I'm guessing she went to this well many times.
Oh.
Right?
Definitely.
She is doing this thing many times. So nothing about this day seemed like it was going to be different than any other day. Right? So now she's encountering this situation that is totally different. So, we have muscle memory. We also have defense mechanisms. We have ways of doing things. We have ways of responding to things. And we don't even realize when the gift of God is in front of us to do something different. And so I give her a little bit of grace to know, sis, this is a whole new day. And you don't know because you've never had this experience before. But Jesus says, you don't know who I am otherwise. And I need to say to you tonight, if you're listening, there's a day coming that's going to be different than any other day.
Yeah.
God is riding into your situation, and he's going to do something different. Careful how you respond to him. Because you just never know. Is this the day? But we should live our lives in such expectancy that today might be the day that changes my life. So I'm believing today might be the day.
That's good.
Because nothing about her life getting up to go take care of that task probably made her think everything was about to change. And as we keep reading this and keep studying it, we're going to see that everything about her life changed. And it started when a man said, can you give me something to drink?
So there's a song actually that has that verse, that whole verse in it. Actually, the song is called "Living Water." And you would appreciate it because you're a gangster rapper. So you would appreciate it. He's a gospel rapper.
I am a rapper.
And in the verse said, if you knew the gift of God or who it was who asked the water, if you knew the gift of God or who it was, I'm not you.
You're not a rapper.
I'm remembering the word. When I thought about it, I was remembering the word. He said, if she knew the gift of God and who it was who asked for the water, she would have gotten what he was talking about. It's something you can't live without. And then it says, step right up if you want that living water. And one of the things I think about is how much, or like you said, not knowing who it is and not knowing when it's coming. Sometimes it's easy to miss. And I think it's even now as we're talking, I think it would be a great opportunity to just ask God, hey, Lord, can you help me open my eyes to see so I can see when you're coming. So I can see that this is you and not just my regular day. Because sometimes it can just feel like your regular day, your regular routine, that it's something that's not going to change. But give me discernment. So discernment is discernment. If that's what you want, or if you just want to see, if you just need to see, ask him. He's faithful, and he's just to give that to you. If you ask him for, so this way you don't miss what he's trying to give to you.
Now, one of the last things we're going to say tonight is that Jesus needed a drink, which is why he stopped.
Right.
And sometimes in your need, God is working out something else. Now, it said he must needs go to Samaria. And he needed some water, which is why he stopped. He needed some food, which is why they went off to get food.
To get it, yeah.
So inside of his need was God working out a bigger plan. And this chapter is one of my favorite chapters, especially in the sense of some liberation gospel around even women. But God was working out a big plan in this moment of needing a drink. And one of the things as you were just saying about having discernment, to see when God has switched something, that's a wonderful thing. It's a powerful thing because it's like, I thought this was just about water. And I'm realizing this is about something else. And as God opens our eyes, we're going to see that even what we thought was just our need being met, God is working out something. So if Jesus didn't need a drink, he wouldn't have sat down at that well where the woman was coming And then when he talks to her, oh, this is about something different.
Yeah.
Right? So even in your needs, know that God is working out a plan. And not only is he going to supply your need, he is going to also make sure that his will gets accomplished.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, what's the will of God? I said, well, let me tell you this. Well, they said, I'm praying, asking God for this. I said, I'm going to tell you one thing. God is only concerned about his will. If your needs are connected into his will, you ain't got to worry about it.
Right.
That thirst, we talked about obeying your thirst. If what you're thirsty for, what you're longing for, and what you're desiring is a part of his will, you will never have to worry about that thirst being quenched.
Right.
If your thirst is fleshly, if your thirst is worldly, if your thirst is not according to the things and the plans of God, you're going to be thirsty.
Right.
Because God is not obligated to anything, but he has one. The Bible says he's of one mind who can change him. That's in the book of Job. And Ephesians, it says he works all things after the counsel of his own will. John says we have a confidence that whenever we pray according to his will, he hears us. So the need that Jesus had and God's will were aligned.
They're aligned.
Because God needed this woman. Jesus needed this woman. And you're going to see how this woman was a part of Jesus' ministry. So his thirst and the plan of God aligned. And whenever we allow our thirst, our longings, our desires to be transformed by the will of God, then Jesus says, you don't know what God can give you. If anybody's excited about this conversation that we're going to have this month, just put it in the chat. I need a drink. I need a drink. And so, as we go over this month, we're going to really sit in this chapter 4. We invite you, don't just wait for next week. Get in this, like as you're doing your own personal study, as you're having your own prayer time. Read this chapter. Read about Samaria. Read about this well. Read about what types of wells they had 2,000 years ago. Because even sometimes in our mind, we see this well where you reel in this little bucket comes up with water. That's still not even the type of well that they're dealing with. Read about Galilee. Read about Samaria. Read about Jacob and Jacob. Like, do some study. Get deep in the water. And then when you join us back next week, you'll have even more for God to pour into and God to illuminate in your spirit. So we're again going to be in John the 4th chapter. We're going to be adding to this as we go through this month. We need a drink. And one of the best places to get our thirst filled is in that water of prayer. Every Saturday. It was so good to have so many people on the line on Saturday and so many requests and testimonies. Someone sent a testimony even yesterday morning, I think, on Tuesday. There was some concern about their physical health. We sent a message out to the prayer team, and the next morning got a testimony that all is well. So Saturdays at 8 a.m. is prayer. Jump in the river. Jump in that water. He's quenching thirst in that water. And on Sunday, in person in the Capital District at 6 p.m., it's The Wave, 508 State Street. Also, if you're not in the Capital District, join us, Facebook Live, YouTube. We are stirring up the water, and we are going to get the drinks in the Holy Ghost even on Sunday. So meet us there. If there's anything or any way we can support you here, don't forget to go by the website, www.riverfreedom.org, and we're going to see y'all next week.